Holy smokes, we are live, Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Open up those notifications, turn them on, smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to donate to this college football Rebel Outpost channel. For you college football sickos out there, hit the $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody, even the Buckeye, Mr. Buckeye Moenvision, even the evil Badger Jeff Olson. Everybody is welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend. With your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. Becky, go Huskies. So much is going on. You are correct. And this is one of these shows. This is one of these live shows. Jimmy Otston. Greg, please pick the Buckeyes today. This is one of these shows where either through our reporting at PATC or by my personal wants, I'm going to get everybody upset with me again. Everybody. 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 The people in the Big Ten are going to be mad at me. The people in the SEC are going to be mad at me. The people in the Big 12 are going to be very upset with me. Everybody. Everybody. Except for the fan bases in the G5. Everybody else, once again, Greg is the most hated man in all of college football YouTube channels. All you got to do is Google my name. All you got to do is Google my name. Holy smokes. We have a lot to get through. First of all, we're going to do our picks. We didn't get it done yesterday. By the way, I have a new dock station. I don't know if it's working. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I don't know if you guys can see me. I don't know if I look worse than I ever have, sounded worse than I ever have. I don't know if this live show is going to go pear-shaped. I have no idea. So, again, it could go better than ever before, or it could go worse. And since I sit in the middle of Loserville City and I am the mayor, it's probably going to go all pear-shaped. But so far, so good. We're going to do our picks. We're going to go through them quickly. The PATC community has a couple game lead on me. We're both well below 500. We're going to go through them quick. I think, do I go first? Do I go first this time? I think I go first, right? Somebody confirm that. Am I going first? I guess I am, because Preston from Greensboro says go opposite, gang, go opposite. So I'm going to go first, and I'm going to go through it quickly. Then we're going to go your picks and do your, Gray goes first. Got it. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go first. You guys go next. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about this. Why the ACC ESPN looking isn't what it seems, and the rest of Jim Phillips' plans for the future. We're not going to go through the whole article. We're going to go through some of it from Brendan Marks. But before we go through that article, let me make it perfectly clear. We at Peek Around the Corner have been saying for months we do not believe the date of February 1st, 2024 is going to hold any significance whatsoever. We could end up being wrong, and if we're wrong, we'll take the L. Even if the significance doesn't become clear in a year from now, 2 years from now in the courts. We have been told over and over and over again, ESPN is leaking like a sieve. They're not going to opt out. They're going to continue as is. They're going to continue. Now, you might say ESPN is wrong and the courts is going to prove them wrong. Okay. All right. Got it. Understood. I'm just telling you, February 1st, 2025 is going to look exactly the way it looked 2 days prior, 3 days prior, a week prior. Also, when I brought up the 2012 articles, I brought it up because I was being told that the composition clause is basically probably, but no one really knows because we can't see it, is probably based on the composition clauses of the contracts prior. And the composition clause has to deal with teams leaving or joining the ACC. And that is given the authority of Phillips and ESPN to renegotiate. I never said that has anything... People are just mixing up all these reports and arguments. I was just laying down the framework on why Phillips and ESPN can talk and renegotiate among the margins. Now, Florida State could be absolutely correct in their court cases. Maybe, just maybe, ESPN and ACC has forfeited. The grant of rights stops at 2027 because they're renegotiating, or whatever your argument is. That's fine. That's cool. I'm just giving you guys the best peek around the corner that is absolutely all over the place. That ESPN is going to act like there's nothing different. ACC is not acting like nothing's different. We're going to go through the report today of Brendan Marks. This was yesterday's report. He talks about there being two separate GORs. The ACC has two separate GORs. And that's one of the reasons why maybe February 1st, 2025 has no significance. I've had a whole bunch of people tell me, Greg, that's ridiculous. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not even smart enough to run this college football YouTube channel on a technical level. But I will tell you this, and I think a lot of people have forgotten about this. I don't know if there's two GORs. I haven't seen a second GOR, but I know I have used the language. National reporters have used the language. A lot of you have used the language that that Notre Dame is under the ACC network grant of rights, but not under the Tier 1 grant of rights. Whether we have been correct saying that in the past or not, I don't know. But all of us have seen, or most of us have seen, that Father Jenkins of Notre Dame did sign something. He signed something. I don't know if it's the grant of rights. Maybe Brendan Marks has got his reporting wrong. But there is something different, something that was signed. Notre Dame signed it. If you Google, go to your Google machine and go all 15 ACC presidents signed. And then it's going to pop up. Notre Dame, you see the signature? Okay, I don't know if Brendan Marks is absolutely correct with his reporting. But I have confirmed since his reporting of yesterday that nobody believes that ESPN is opting out. Nobody. Now, are they all wrong? They could be. And I will be here to take the L because for months I have been saying that ESPN is going to continue on. And I've been raked over the coals by, you just go to War Chant, people have been sending me pictures. Holy smokes. It's like I'm the devil over there because I went against the grain because of everything that's being told to me. The chatter is ESPN is going to continue on. ACC is going to continue on. And now there's a report that says, yeah, it looks like they're going to continue on. As for this other argument that's being thrown in the mix, of course, if Notre Dame calls the Big Ten today, tomorrow, during the SEC Big Ten meetings and say, we're joining you, Big Ten. They're not, though. They're not joining the Big Ten right now. They're hoping for this Super League stuff because it's their greatest dream if this ever happens. But if Notre Dame would call the Big Ten tomorrow, of course the ACC would be in trouble. If the SEC and third-party talks told North Carolina that we'll take on North Carolina State. Tell your Board of Governors, third-party talks, cloak and dagger. Of course the ACC would be in trouble. That is not my argument. My argument has been, my peek around the corner has been, it turns out that February 1st, 2025 would not be a significant date. Not in the eyes of the ESPN, not in the eyes of the ACC, and if Florida State wins some sort of case a year from now using February 1st, 2025, I'll take the L. But it was important for me to give the peek out months ago, and I've been continuing to do it because every other chatter on YouTube channel and message boards was February 1st, 2025, it's all going to clap, blah, 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 blah. It ain't happening. And if it does, I'll take the L. To clear all that up. Preston from Greensboro. May I suggest Yakety Sack Benny Hill as the new entrance music for Greg the Gold? I probably would get I'll see if I can buy that music. But I cannot use anything that, is copyrighted. But yeah, right now that would fit. I went 500 last week, but going 500 is losing. And I have not had a winning week yet. I don't get it either, Tumasta. To be honest with you, I do not get it either. Preston from Greensboro, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. I do appreciate it very much. And then, when we go through that, we're going to be on here for a while, guys. This live show is going to be going on for a while. So if you need to leave, come back in. That's cool. But we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Because then we're going to be talking about the Big Ten SEC. They're meeting in Grand Hyatt in Nashville, Tennessee. Right now. And I'm going to get this out before there's any reporting on it. Obviously, I don't have like a peek around the corner because I'm not in the room, right? But I will give you a little bit of what I was told last night. The expectations is that there's going to be some agreement. Maybe the smallest of agreements over something that probably isn't going to be very important. Something is going to be agreed upon. That is the belief of those, or at least some of those, who are reporting and following this story. It is important, supposedly it is important, that they get something done. If it's bowl games, we'll go through at the back. That's going to be the back end of our monologue because we're going to get some reporting, I think. By the time we get to that monologue, that part of the monologue, we're going to get some reporting from Heather Dinich and from everybody else. But the belief is they're going to get something done to build some sort of momentum and to build trust. But, and we'll go through all the items later, there'd be many people surprised if there was some big agreement. Like, for example, the playoff format. It doesn't sound like it can be agreed upon today. Well, let's just put it this way. If the SEC and the Big Ten do have some sort of agreement, that they come to some sort of consensus for 2026 and beyond, they would not report it today. They would go back and consult and talk to the Big 12 and the ACC. I do not expect because I'm being told this, I'm giving you the peek. I do not expect any announcement on any format change to the playoffs. That's just going to be talked about, discussed, whatever. There may be some sort of agreement on bowl games, an outline of bowl games, some sort of, there may be something along those lines. There probably won't be any announcement or agreement on regular season scheduling because they can't get to that part because the SEC have not agreed to have, they haven't been approved internally for the 9 conference games. So whatever comes out of today, the consensus seems to be some sort of small little agreement on the periphery of all the issues, some small little, so they can take a little victory, they can take a little bow. But beyond that, I don't expect anything big. If there happens to be something big, well, we're gonna cover it all anyways. Okay. Again, there's no way for me to know. I'm not in the room, but that is what I was told last night. Some sort of agreement, some little bit of agreement, but we'll see what happens. I appreciate you all coming on in. We're going to get to our picks right now. We've got a stack show. This is a live show. We're going to be on longer than 2 hours. We're going to be on longer than 2 hours, as long as we have no technical issues. Again, I got a new dock station. Things seem to be working, but if things go pear-shaped, who knows where I plugged what into what nozzle, whatever. Everything could go pear-shaped in the next 5 minutes. But we're going to be on for quite a while today because we've got a lot to cover. First of all, Mark Bowman, do you think the SEC will go to 9 conference games? Yes, I do. If I had to put my chips to the middle of the table, I would say yes, and it's going to happen in 2026. But of course, I don't know that for sure, right? I mean, ESPN's going to have to pay a little bit more. Are they willing to do it? SEC, half the conference wants to do it. Half the other conference don't want to do it. And then you got to talk about bowl qualifications, right? And then you're going to be talking about a bowl alliance between the SEC and the Big Ten. And if you go to 9 conference games, that's less wins for the SEC schools. Mathematically, that is less wins for the SEC schools because they're playing each other more often. And then you talk about the college football playoffs. You talk about if the SEC, if they do get more qualifiers to the playoffs, if they're certain of getting 3, if they're certain of getting 4, maybe that will push the tide over to where there are going to be 9 conference games because it doesn't matter if the teams have more losses. Who knows? I would put my chips in the middle of the table on yes, they will go to 9. But it's not a promise. It's not a report. Just my speculation. Thank you, Mark Bowman. I appreciate your generosity. Appreciate it so very much. We got to get to the picks here. And believe it or not, I am going to go as fast as I possibly can. Because I've got no confidence this week. None whatsoever. So I'm going to blow by this real quick. Utah, Arizona. Arizona State, excuse me. Utah, Arizona State. There is too many question marks right now for Utah, on Utah, for me to give 5.5 points. I'm going Arizona State. Arizona State plus 5.5. I don't know what's going on with Cam Rising. The offense is stagnant without him. I'm going to Sun Devils at home, 5.5. Texas and Oklahoma. Well, this is pretty easy. This is an easy one. If you guys want to go opposite of me, go ahead. But Deion Burks is not playing for the Sooners. Their best wide receiver, their transfer from Purdue, is not playing. The word came down on high about 1 hour ago. Therefore, the Oklahoma Sooners are not going to have any of their top 5 wide receivers going into this game. The Red River rivalry. This is a gift. This is an absolute gift. The Longhorns, minus 14.5. I'd be taking the Longhorns if it was minus 20.5. Texas. Okay. All right. This is where I need a little bit of inspiration. This is where I need to dig deep. Ohio State is favored by 3.5 points. The first 2 games were easy. Arizona State plus 5.5. Texas minus 14.5. This, I need inspiration. Break the gold. Needs to show up. Needs to show up. Needs to show up now. Let's go. Greg the Gold making his very first appearance in 2024. Becky Go Huskies. Oklahoma's number 1 receiver is going to play. I saw that he wasn't going to play. Very interesting. Hold on here. Yeah, Pete Thamel is reporting he's not going to play. But, maybe things have changed or Pete Thamel's reporting is incorrect. Oklahoma's leading wide receiver, Deion Burks, is not expected to play. That was 1 hour ago. Maybe things have changed. If things have changed, it's too late. It's too late because, for me, it's too late. I took Texas. I can't switch. Once the play is made, it's over. It's over. Okay. Let's go to the next game. Oregon, Ohio State. Now that I went Greg the Gold on it, now that I got my inspiration, now that my mind is clear, I said before the start of the season, the Buckeyes would win the regular season game. The Buckeyes would win the Big Ten championship game over Oregon. But then Oregon Ducks would snipe the Buckeyes in the semifinals of the playoffs. And then Oregon would go to the national championship game. So I'm sticking with the Buckeyes winning this game. 3.5 points. Woo! I don't even... field goal does not win it for me. But I'm going to still take the Buckeyes. I'm still riding with the Buckeyes. Minus 3.5. Minus 3.5. Ryan Willie, thank you so much for becoming a member for the 10th month. I will get to your membership in after my picks. Thank you, Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. I do appreciate it. Penn State at USC. USC. They're going to make some adjustments, right? They're going to help their right tackle out, right? Against Abdul Carter and the fierce pass rush of the Nittany Lions. But there is one aspect of this game that I cannot get over. I think the Nittany Lions are going to run, and then run some more. I saw Darius Taylor in the Minnesota, who has been struggling running the ball. They ran it real good against the Trojans, especially in the second half. Even when the Trojans knew that it was coming, I think Penn State's going to be even more successful. And I think that is going to... Jimmy, you're welcome. You're welcome, my friend. Appreciate it. Cloak and Dagger for his 7th month. I will get to your membership. Thank you so much. Jimmy's very happy that I took the Buckeyes. I'm telling you, no respect. No respect in the PATC community for Greg the Cooler. Penn State at USC. I'm sorry, Nitwit, but I got to take the Penn State Nittany Lions. I think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be an excellent game. Miller Moss is once again going to prove himself. Zachariah Branch, hopefully he doesn't drop any passes for the Trojans. But I got the Penn State Nittany Lions -4.5. Louisville at Virginia. I said I was going to be quick, and I'm taking a long time. I do apologize for that. So let's go quicker. Virginia, their magical season stops this Saturday. I've got Louisville winning big over Virginia, -7.5. Ole Miss at LSU. Oh, boy. Oh, I'm going to do it. Charlie Atwood is not, he's not unhappy that I took his Nittany Lions. But Lee is unhappy. Holy smokes. I've got LSU. I'm sorry. I've got LSU. I think LSU is going to have a more balanced attack. And because of that, they're going to cover. They're going to lose by 3, lose by 2, lose by 1, or they're going to pull out a win at home. I'm taking LSU +3.5. Iowa State, West Virginia. I think I want to take a pass. Am I able to take a pass on this game? Woo! West Virginia has turned it up. They've turned it all the way up. I've got Iowa State finishing 3rd in the conference going into the season. Boy, oh boy. I just don't know what to do. I'm going to go ahead and take West Virginia. I'm going to take West Virginia, but then I'm going to have Iowa State rebounding after this game. I believe in the Cyclones. I just happen to believe in the Mountaineers in this game. Woo! Boy, I've got the Mountaineers, but I'm very interested to see what you guys, how you vote on that game. Nebraska at Indiana. Another tough one. I'm taking the Hoosiers. I do think Nebraska comes out of their offensive doldrums a little bit here. And I think Indiana's going to hit the wall a little bit with their offense. But at the end of the game, I will trust the Hoosiers with Curtis Rourke with the ball more than I'm going to trust Nebraska. I've got the Hoosiers minus 3.5. Kansas State at Colorado. What a monster of a game. All these games are monsters. Boy. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm taking Colorado. 4.5 points is just too much. Kansas State is given too much. I'm going to win this game if Colorado loses by 4, by 3 at home. I'm taking the Buffaloes, but I have no confidence. Arizona at BYU. This is the last game. Arizona, what happened last week? I took Arizona. I took you guys. The Red Raiders beat me and beat you. I'm not going to fall for that again. I'm taking Jake Resloff. I'm taking BYU minus 4.5. 4.5 BYU. Okay, so I have made my selections. Now we are going to go to the PATC community. And then we have got a stack show to get to. Holy smokes, we got so much to get to. But we were not able to do a live show yesterday to do our picks, so we got to get it done today. Does Utah cover minus 5.5 point spread? Versus, screwed that up. Does Utah cover the 5.5 point spread versus Arizona State? The voting begins now. I appreciate the memberships from Jimmy and from the Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. I will get to you after the picks are done and all the super chats. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you very, very much. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very close. 55% of you took Utah. 55% takes Utah. Very close. Very, very close. Texas at Oklahoma. Does Texas cover minus 14.5 point spread versus Oklahoma? Yes, you're taking Texas. No, you're taking Oklahoma in the 14.5 points. The voting begins now. Replica, I need this win like the air I breathe. Holy smokes. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 65% of you took the Texas Longhorns. I think that's an easy one, guys. I really do. We both have the same team on that one. Ohio State and Oregon. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. What is the community going to do? What is the PATC community going to do on this one? Does Ohio State cover the minus 3.5 point spread versus Oregon. Yes, you're taking the Buckeyes. No, you're taking 3.5 points in Oregon. The voting begins now. Man, I was not expecting this type of split. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 68% takes Ohio State. I was not expecting that. No way, no how. I was expecting a much closer vote. USC and Penn State. Does Penn State cover minus 4.5 point spread versus USC? If you vote yes, you're taking Penn State given 4.5. If you vote no, you're taking the Trojans and getting 4.5. The voting begins now. Oh boy, we got a close vote. We've got a close vote, ladies and gentlemen. Five more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, 53% Penn State. The voting switched at the last second. Penn State. It was 51 to 49 USC, but then it switched 53% Penn State. Holy smokes. Louisville, Virginia. Louisville, Virginia. Does Louisville cover the minus? Whoops, something's going on here. Minus 7.5 point spread. Okay. Versus UVA. Voting yes, Louisville. Voting no, UVA, Virginia. The voting starts now. Yes, Louisville is going to get it. Louisville is going to get it. I have to make a change here. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Okay. Louisville is the pick. We go to Ole Miss. Does Ole Miss cover the minus 3.5 point spread? This is going to be an interesting one. I don't know where you guys are going to go with this. Does Ole Miss cover the minus 3.5 point spread versus LSU? Voting begins now. Five, four, three, two, one. No, it's a big no. 61% says no. PATC community takes LSU. West Virginia. Whoops. Does Iowa State cover minus 2.5 point spread versus West Virginia? Voting begins now. And again, I was not expecting this. Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a big yes for Iowa State. Wow. Wow. I took West Virginia. It was my toughest play by far. Did not know where to go with that one. You guys were pretty convinced. Iowa State, Nebraska versus Indiana. Does Indiana cover the minus 3.5 point spread versus Nebraska? The voting begins now. PATC community went big on Iowa State. And they're going big on another team here. Indiana. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The PATC community takes Indiana. There has not been a lot of close votes. Colorado. Is this one going to be close? Does Kansas State cover minus 4.5 point spread versus Colorado? The voting begins now. Vox Quindaro, we're not wishy-washy. Well, maybe I should be more wishy-washy. Maybe it's a good sign that I didn't know what the heck I'm doing. Huh? With West Virginia and Iowa State. I took West Virginia, but then I think the Cyclones are going to recover. I really like the Cyclones, but I like the Mountaineers in that game. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The PATC community goes big with Kansas State. Holy smokes. Wow. Wow. Okay, last game. And then we got to get on with the rest of our... We've got a long show ahead of us. We've got a lot of big stories going on. Does BYU cover the -4.5 point spread versus Arizona? The voting begins now. Five, four, three, two, one. The community goes big on BYU. Holy smokes. Okay, so that we're done. We are absolutely done. Greg the Cooler takes Arizona State, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Louisville, LSU, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, BYU. The PATC community took Utah, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Louisville, LSU, Iowa State, Indiana, Kansas State, BYU. Those are our picks. They are in the books. Okay. Now, I want to get to, first of all, thank you so much for Ryan Willie and Jimmy Austin. Don't you mean Greg the Cold or Greg the Cooler or Greg the Iceberg? Well, hopefully Greg the Gold makes an appearance. Jimmy, thank you so much. Thanks, Greg. That's all the Ducks needed. Because I took the Buckeyes, Jimmy is very confident. Thank you guys for your 10th month and 7th month of being a member of our program. Both of you are knighted, cloak, and dagger. Thank you guys so very much. I do appreciate it. Both are very kind to this program, helping us keep the light, keeping the lights on. Thank you. Okay, we've got a lot to get to. We're gonna go to this story now. Brendan Marks, The Athletic, put out yesterday why the ACC look-in isn't what it seems, and the rest of Jim Phillips' plan for the future. I'm just keeping an eye on any reports coming out of the Big Ten meeting, SEC Big Ten meeting out of Nashville. I have not seen any new reporting. Keep your head on a swivel, PATC community. Let me know if you see anything going on. Any reports. Charlotte, North Carolina, midway through his 4th year as ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips has had one overarching goal guiding most of its decision making. That we have a sustainable model college sports and it has a chance to have longevity to it. If only things were simple. Instead, college athletics' already unstable foundation is growing shakier by the day. The Big Ten and the SEC will meet in Nashville this week, today, and they'll talk about the automatic college football playoff berth for their leagues, a growing gap between the Power 2 and every other conference. Elsewhere, multiple Super League proposals have emerged that challenge the existing conference model altogether and may hasten more widespread changes to the infrastructure of college sports. And as if that weren't enough, on Monday, Judge Claudia Wilkin gave the preliminary approval. We went through all of that. Many of those issues are outside of Phillips' direct control, but not all of them. It's Phillips' job to prioritize things that will maintain the ACC's positioning within the current college sports hierarchy, most notably the league's upcoming look-in period with ESPN in February 2025 regarding the ACC media rights contract. To date, that look-in period has been viewed nationally as something of an inflection point for the ACC. Were ESPN not to pick up the option on its deal with the ACC, in theory, the league would be back on the media rights market in 2027, or much more likely susceptible to a new wave of conference realignment, especially with the league's two recent football powers, Clemson and Florida State, already suing with designs on getting out of the league. But that entire notion appears to be based on a misconception, or at least a misunderstanding of what February's look-in period actually entails. That's because the ACC actually has two media rights deals with ESPN. One, its base deal, which was originally signed before the ACC network was announced in 2016, which focuses on the ACC programming, right? ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, we call that Tier 1, Tier 2, and another signed in 2016, which deals specifically with the ACC network. Why does that discrepancy matter? Because only the base deal is part of the February's look-in period. The second, the ACC network specific deal, already runs through 2036, which has not been previously reported and overlaps with the ACC's larger grant of rights. Translation: even if ESPN for some unknown reason opted not to finalize an extension of the base deal through 2036, to be clear, it is Phillips and industry's expectation that the extension will be picked up. And that's what we've been talking about for months. We gave you the peak. Everybody believes it's going to be just picked up and going, and nothing's going to change with the gore. I understand a lot of people disagree. All I can tell you is for months, this is what pretty much everybody believes. But maybe they're all wrong, and we're going to find out. Then the ACC will still have a media rights deal with ESPN that runs through 2036, which would seemingly protect the league from any power to poaching. And what incentive would ESPN have to decline the ACC's premier inventory? What is the incentive? In Florida State's lawsuit against the ACC in Florida, the school claims Phillips unilaterally moved the look-in period back from 2021 to its current 2025 date. And finally, in the article, instead, Phillips and the ACC are approaching the look-in as a way to negotiate in the margins of its base deal and maximize value for both the league and ESPN. Phillips said that could include negotiating for, among other things, better time slots for ACC games. I don't know how that's going to happen. Putting more ACC games on network top channels, and that would happen if the ACC agrees to non-traditional dates on the calendar, non-traditional college football dates on the calendar, which we believe is probably part of the negotiation, and discussing ancillary revenue splits regarding areas like advertising and carriage fees. We have had a very, very good conversations with them, Phillips said, and I fully expect to get it done. So, now this has brought up a lot more questions. No, I don't have the answers. I wish I did. I don't know anything like There has been other talks coming off this report with the reporter and with ESPN beat writers. I'm not going to give their names, but you know who they are. You can look it up. Talking about how this is like a second ACC gore. All I know is when Notre Dame did sign something, and it wasn't the base deal, it was the ACC network deal. Maybe it's just a signature for a media rights package. Maybe there is a gore attached to it. I don't know. But what the article reinforced was that nobody really truly believes that ESPN is going to opt out. Why haven't they opted in yet? I don't know. Why haven't they made some announcement? I don't know. But all I can tell you that everybody in the industry, ESPN is telling everybody. Remember what I've said over the last couple of years? It's the media partners that leak the most. It's why we at Peek Around the Corner fortunately had the information that the Pac-12, fortunately in that we gave you the accurate peak, that the Pac-12 was not getting any deals, media deal in their negotiations that were any close to satisfactory, is because the media partners leak. ESPN has been leaking all over the place. That nothing is going to, there's not going to be any material change. It's just going to keep going as is. They're not opting out. This is the peak I've given you. If it goes the other way, I'm going to be the first one to say, got it wrong, taking the L. But I don't think the February 1st, 2025 date, I think it's going to come and go, much like the August 15th date of 2024, where months prior to that, we said, nobody believes that Florida State is going to file their notice of withdrawal. And they didn't. And in this case, we don't believe that ESPN is going to file their notice of withdrawal, to opt out, to say that's it. They're negotiating on the margins. Maybe they can get something done. Maybe they can squeeze out a little bit more juice. Maybe a little bit more money can come into the total pie, which then can be cut up with unequal revenue. I just read where the ACC is now going to include the performance of the women's basketball programs in their unequal revenue sharing. So they're throwing a whole lot of stuff in those metrics. So that's the report. And I've said this before. The ACC and ESPN are not like, they actually think they're in the right. Florida State actually thinks they're in the right. No one is doing this going, this is our belief. That no one is doing this saying, oh, we're just lying our butts off and we're going to fool everybody. And no, ESPN, and they believe as much as Florida State believes that they are in the right, ACC. So we will continue on, but I'm gonna hold up, and I'm not backing down on our reporting, our peak to you, that at the end of February 1st, 2025, it's not going to look any different than it was a week prior, 2 weeks prior, 3 weeks prior, a month prior, 2 months prior. We're going to go on in the spring of March and April, and February 1st, 2025 is going to be forgotten, just like August 15th. And if I'm wrong, I would take the big L. Okay? Is that agreed upon? Is that good enough? And again, we don't know what we don't know, which is a lot. I haven't seen the media rights. None of us have, right? We don't know how the we don't know how the gore is going to be judged upon in Mecklenburg, in Leon, and Pickens. We don't know how all those appeal processes are going to work out. Or at least I don't know. But again, just more reporting, people being told in different ways. Yeah, February 1st, it's not going to be like schools are going to be leaving. Like, they're not going to have a pathway out of the conference. They're not going to be walking out saying 2027, that's it. We don't believe that is going to be the case. Again, back to the courts. Continue on. We'll see what happens. Now, this Big Ten meeting. We will Is Miami to the Big Ten by 2029 still a thing? Miami will be one of the top candidates for the Big Ten when they become available. The Florida State Money Perch, BTM especially, believes that Miami will get to the Big Ten by 2029. But they're going to have to find a pathway out. And again, that has lots to do with the courts and all this other stuff that's going on, right? So we'll see. But the BTM believes that. And that's a pretty important, well, that's what he believes. We'll see what happens. We're going to follow the story. But Miami, Miami is going to be in a very good position when they can have first-party talks. When Miami can have first-party talks with the Big Ten, they're going to be in very good position. And BTM thinks that will happen before 2029, but there's so many variables up until then. We'll see what happens. David B., the Super League needs to end conference football. Okay, look, so here we are, right? Now a lot of people are in support of conferences just dissolving, disappearing. I think that has a long road. Boy, I don't see it happening. But a lot of people are hoping for it. A lot of people are praying for it. The Monty Show, he thinks the Super League's already here. A lot of people believe it's already here. I don't believe it is. I believe that private equity is going to come into college football and come into the college football space. But how it comes in is going to determine the future of college football. And of course, I don't know how it's going to come in. In other words, I don't know if it's going to come in as a team level, or it's going to come in at the conference level, or if it's going to come in smash capital 70-team Super League level. But how that private equity comes in, I think, is largely going to determine the future of college sports. I have a hard time. I have a very difficult time believing that the SEC is going to give up control of what they can control. I just start there. I think of the SEC, I just don't see him being for this. I don't see the Big Ten. Now, I just read again this morning that Smash Capital and the representatives are going to try, they're going to do an end run around the commissioners. They're going to talk to the presidents. Because their perception is probably correct. That the commissioners of Petiti and Sankey aren't for this. For obvious reasons. They're going to do an end run to the presidents. Again, maybe they can get some presidents on board. But a lot of these presidents, first of all, they don't have the head. They're not thinking. They don't have this vision. I just, because of the history, I have a very difficult time. I think what's probably going to happen, again, speculation on my, no one has told me this, but I think speculation on my point, when they're talking about this Super League and Smash Capital, I think the first instinct is for the Big Ten and the SEC to say, why don't we do this by ourselves? Why don't we do this as a Big Ten conference? If we're going to get a cash infusion, so I believe private equity is coming in. I've been on that board for months. But is it going to come in as a Super League? Boy, I don't see it. I don't see a 70-team Super League, 72-team Super League. I don't think the SEC is going to have any interest in this. Most of them. But maybe we'll find out a little bit more today, coming out of Nashville, Tennessee. Maybe there'll be some clues that maybe they are listening, willing to listen. Maybe the Buckeyes are interested in this. Here's one of my problems with this. Let's take Michigan. Michigan is a huge brand, very valuable, great institution. But when I see people going, Michigan would rather dump Northwestern and bring on a school that brings more eyeballs to football, I shudder. My first reaction is that person doesn't know Michigan. That's the problem with the creation of the Super League. Michigan is the most, forget about the scandals, football, Jim Harbaugh. I'm talking about the institution. I'm talking about the faculty. I'm talking about those boosters that give money to the university, don't give money to the sports endeavors. I'm talking about the real Michigan, not the Jim Harbaugh Michigan. I'm talking about the University of Michigan. They are the most selective, picky. When it comes to Big Ten expansion, they are the no vote. Them in Wisconsin. Oklahoma felt that they couldn't get into the Big Ten with Texas because of Michigan and Wisconsin. So Michigan doesn't. Michigan. I don't know how you get Michigan interested in the Super League stuff. Yes, you could get $250 million a year. They think they're going to get that eventually anyways. From Big Ten media rights. Florida State, Clemson, a whole bunch of other candidates. It's Michigan that you need to convince. So now, to get into the Big Ten. So now people are saying, well, these Big Ten schools are just going to say yes because they're going to get 2 times the money and everything. Michigan itself, I don't know how you sell them on this. I don't. They have an unbelievably close relationship with Northwestern. It is 100 years of Michigan wanted John Hopkins. Michigan is elitist, if you want to call them that. Some of these schools, remember, before we get to your phone calls, I want to just remind everybody this. Hold on. I'm going to open up the phone lines in a second. I'm going to remind everybody this. When I talked about how for months from February 24th, 2023, all the way up until it happened, July 27th of 2023, every single live show I did, I said the odds favor the Big 12 poaching the Pac-12. But I always said during all those months, I also said the Pac-12 wants to stick together. Those institutions wanted to stick together. I think but they couldn't make it. They couldn't get it done on the athletic part of it, right? The Pac-12 could not get a media deal. Their value, we talked about it. They needed to be a more national conference. We went through all that. Michigan is not going to want, I'm humbly saying this, as far as I can, as everything I know about the Big Ten, Michigan is not going to subjugate Northwestern, Indiana, Purdue, whatever schools you want to come up with in the Big Ten, and say to them, you're going to be making third tier, you're going to be making $100 million less than we are. I don't see it happening. That's not the history. I know things have all changed. I get it. I am just telling you from what I know about the Big Ten. Now, it could be in the next media rights deal that Michigan, Ohio State say, yeah, okay, we need to make a little bit more than the other Big Ten universities. And remember, Ohio State and Michigan already make $100 million more than the other Big Ten universities. Not in media money, but in everything else. So they're already making $250 million as an athletic department. If they need to make 10 or 15 million more because of unequal media revenue, okay. Then that may very well be done. Same thing in the SEC. But I do not see Florida subjugating Vanderbilt. I don't see Florida having Vanderbilt making $100 million less than that. I don't see it at this Super League deal. I also don't believe that there is this total interest in the Big Ten to play G5 schools. I know they've limited it, but they're not erasing it because they know how important it is. Look. Ohio State. How many MAC schools are in the state of Ohio? How many MAC schools are in the state of Michigan? Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Western Michigan. Ohio State is always playing one of these MAC schools in the state of Ohio. This happens all the time because they know the importance of that $1.4 million check going to these schools. Politically, Ohio State, I don't think, wants to shut the door completely on the G5 schools. Call me naive, but I'm telling you, this is the way it's been, and maybe it's all going to change. But when we're talking about saving college football and doing this altruistic thing, and everybody being good, locking arms together, but then really hurting the G5 schools, is that again, you may want that to happen, it may happen, but please don't use the, well, this is all great for college football, when you're really hurting these G5 schools. And maybe that doesn't matter to you, and maybe it doesn't matter to the media networks, and maybe they're all just going to go away. But if you're for this, if you're for the G5 schools not getting that regular season check anymore, well, you're being cutthroat. You're being cutthroat. Just like the Big Ten and the SEC might be in cutthroat right now. They might be cutthroat today. And now, for the Big Ten and the SEC, now that I got everybody mad at me, and I said at the beginning of the show, I was going to get everybody mad at me. I'm going to get the SEC and the Big Ten mad right now. Petiti and Sankey, couple things. One is, I am not a fan. I am not a fan. I've been saying this for months. I am not a fan. I don't believe. Okay, they're the commissioners of the two biggest conferences, the most powerful conference. They're looking out for their self-interest. That's fine. Whatever. I get it. Just like the Big 12, just like the ACC, Florida, everyone's looking out for their self-interest. Nobody is an angel here. We're all devils. But two things I want to say. This continued blindness to what college football needs, which is a collective bargaining agreement, which is contracts. We're replacing letter of intent and we're replacing it with something else. Letter of intent is going away. That just wake up. Wake up. You guys say you're the leaders, you want to build consensus and all this. You're basically leading everybody over a cliff. We're going to get more lawsuits. This squarely sits at the table in front of Sankey and Petiti. And I know I'm going to get it. SEC people, you guys have no idea the direct messages I get. And I'm fine with people disagree with me because that's what this show is all about. But when they start calling me names, holy smokes, look, they're doing nobody any favors. They're not trying to convince the presidents because Sankey absolutely believes in what he's saying. So does Petiti. You're leading everybody over a cliff. And I don't have interviews. I don't bring people on. This is the reason why I don't do it. Because I want to be able to say what I think. I don't need to be nicey-nicey. I don't need to maintain access. I have it. Petiti and Sankey, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. That's number one. Number two, again, I'm going to piss off Big Ten and SEC fans because I got everybody else upset. I gave everybody the peek around the corner that the Big Ten was going to pound the table, try to get 4 automatic qualifiers. They may settle for 3. I said this was going to be coming up. September 9th, our live show. I gave you the peek. And then it happened. But ladies and gentlemen, just because I give you the peek and it happens, doesn't mean that I'm in favor of it. I'm just trying to explain why the Big Ten is trying to get this done with their network partners. Because their network partners want it. But this is all rubbish. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. I understand why they're pushing it. I get it. But I'm talking as a fan here. I'm not giving a peek. I'm not giving a report. I'm talking as a fan. You've got your advantages. Have your tournaments. Your conference tournament if you ever want that. You're going to get 3 or 4 teams in every year. You got the resources. You're looking out for your self-interest. But once you start automatic qualifiers for 3 to 4 spots, and if you do this first round by 14 teams that automatically goes to the Big Ten SEC, that is absolutely rubbish. Rubbish. I gave people the peek. It didn't mean I supported it. I don't. Okay, we're going to go to your phone calls so you guys can now yell at me for picking on everybody on today's show. Let's get to it. The phone lines are open. Talk about any games that is going to happen this week. Any games you want to talk about, any coaches on the hot seat, your Heisman race, what's going to happen in Nashville. Keep your head on a swivel. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, smash the like button, donate to the channel. If you want to donate, please do hit the $sign, make a comment.
From
Chris Kenny.
Chris Kenny, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. I think we've had this discussion before, and I, first of all, agree with you 110% with everything that you've said about the prospects of the Super League and sort of what the culture and the future of the Big Ten and the SEC are, especially the Big Ten. So I will make a comment in agreement with you that's an abridged version of discussions we've had in the past, because I think you and I see eye to eye on this. And then I have a suggestion that I'm sort of interested in your thoughts. It's one I've raised before, but I don't know if you've heard anything more about it or more thoughts about it yourself.
Thoughts about what?
Northwestern. I had a suggestion that I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Okay.
I've raised it before, and I wanted to see if you had a new reaction to it.
All right.
So as you, I think, know, I went to Northwestern. I live in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland. They are my 2 teams. They're both in the Big Ten. They are not going anywhere. I've said this before to you, and you, I think, are in agreement with me. If the University of Chicago had not voluntarily left the Big Ten, they would still be in the Big Ten today.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. They're not getting ejected. There is no contraction. They're not getting left behind. And I will go a step further. If there is a Super League of one form or another, it is not going to be a 24-team operation. It's not going to be a 32-team operation where there's going to be some sort of Lord of the Flies or Hunger Games approach to deciding which teams are going to get in. Whatever form a Super League takes into the future will include every single Big Ten school and every single SEC school there is. All the points you made about Michigan and Wisconsin are 100% correct. Those arguments have only gotten stronger in light of the recent expansion. The University of Washington and UCLA want to be in the same league with Michigan, of course, but they also want to be in the same conference with Northwestern. They want to be in the same conference with Maryland and have proximity, not just to the Washington, D.C. media market. They want to be close to the federal government. They apply for grants at the Food and Drug Administration, at the NIH, at the Defense Department. Having an institution in this market is important to those schools. The same is true for the SEC. Jerry Moorhead is not the president of Georgia football. He is the president of the University of Georgia, an ascendant university that I think will probably be in the AAU before long, that wants to be in the AAU, that recruits students not from the Southeast, it recruits them from all over the country. They want to be in the same league as Vanderbilt. They have no incentive to send Vanderbilt packing.
Georgia.
And I think they...
I'm sorry to interrupt. You're absolutely correct. The University of Georgia would never, again, I don't like to say never, but Vanderbilt has nothing to worry about, and Georgia is one of the reasons why. You're absolutely correct. Georgia is an emerging research university. Georgia is becoming, okay. Georgia wants North Carolina. Okay,
exactly.
Guys? All right. I mean, they're not looking for none of these presidents. Most of them don't think like us. Okay, most of them don't think like us. They want to rub shoulders. There is this no. This is why I don't think the Super League's going to gain traction, because there's no. It goes against the opposite of what the SEC is trying to accomplish, what they have accomplished, what they're trying to do in the future. Same thing with the Big Ten. They don't. It's, again, I'm going to sound like an absolute jerk when I say this, but they really don't want to rub shoulders with people outside of their group. That's why they formed this elitist AAU thing. Again, this is not me talking. I'm just telling you guys the reality of it. Go ahead. I apologize, Kenny.
No, you're preaching to the choir, Greg. We are in 100% agreement. That's why the concept of relegation in this Super League, I guarantee you, is a non-starter. Because forget about Northwestern and Rutgers or Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. What happens if Missouri goes 3-9? What happens if Arkansas goes 3-9? You hire one bad coach, or you get a quarterback that gets injured, and Auburn, for God's sakes, has terrible years now and then. You're telling me that Alabama is going to be in the so-called protected class of 8 or 10 schools that can never ever be relegated, but Auburn's not?
Yeah.
That is never happening.
And here's the other thing about Project Rudy. Project Rudy, again, teams can get regulated down to like third tier, right? They're making less money, and it's going to be based on wins or losses. But conferences aren't going away. So you're asking. So what you're asking the SEC to agree to this, while their bottom 8 teams, who are really good value brand, but whatever, bottom 8, somebody has to be the bottom 8. They're going to be losing most of their conference games because Georgia and they already have the advantage, and now they're going to have $200 million advantage. It's going to be even more difficult for the SEC and the lower half of the SEC, the lower half of the Big Ten to win games, because most of the games are conference games. And now they're going to go against these permanent members who are going to make even 4 times as much, while the ACC and the Big 12 schools are mostly going to play against each other. Guys, come on. There is no way on God's green earth is Michigan going to subjugate Northwestern to that type of deal. Their relation, it's not happening. It's not happening in the SEC. Could something happen? Could there be some super? It ain't going to be this, in my humble opinion. And go ahead, finish up.
Well,
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, let me. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to monopolize your show, but
Yeah.
you and I see eye to eye on this. There's no incentive. Forget about the relationships for a moment. There's no incentive to create haves and have-nots of that magnitude within any of these leagues. Michigan and Ohio State will always have structural advantages, as they've enjoyed for 100 years, to be the best in the conference. That doesn't serve any purposes to dilute and diminish the rest of the product. Like, they don't want to be playing JV schools and then trying to have a compelling resume going to a playoff, and everybody says, you're beating up on the little sisters of the poor. Like, they need to have a degree of parity to maintain legitimacy.
Yeah.
And so, yes, at the margins, they may want to make more money, but like stealing from their conference members, forget about the relationships, as important as they are. It doesn't even make competitive sense. They don't need to do that. They're not going to do it. The reason USC and Texas are not in their historic leagues is because they didn't have the resources to compete at the highest level.
Yeah.
If you're in the leagues that make the most money, you are at the top of the mountain. Chasing money for its own sake becomes less important at that point if you have the resources to win relative to your peers, and you don't have to nuke everybody else in the conference to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
So you and I are 100% in agreement. Here's the suggestion I'm going to make, though, and then I'll hang up and listen to what they say. I do think that private capital is coming in. I do think, frankly, that a Super League is going to happen. My view of the Super League, however, is a Power 2 breakaway. I do think that the Big Ten and the SEC, rather than contracting, are going to get bigger. I think that's like the counterintuitive point that is obvious. Nobody seems to see that, but I think it's obvious that they're going to grow. I think that they will break away at this point. And here's my hypothetical that I want your reaction to. Not just what you think of it opinion-wise, but if you think there's any legitimacy to it, whether you like it or not. I don't think getting into business with Smash Capital or any other private equity firm in and of itself is a good idea for all the obvious reasons. I think the way forward to get the capital, which can include private equity on the back end, is through the NFL. The NFL has nibbled around this. They're competing against the college football playoff head-to-head. There are executives in the NFL who have talked about deeper partnerships with college football. They have money coming out of their ears. They've got to figure out a way to spend it. There's going to be more money that the NFL has to spend when they add an 18th game, which is going to happen, when they're playing an overseas game every week of the season, which is going to happen, and ownership groups to free up some of the value in those teams, like get cash for themselves, since you can't really sell a $9 billion enterprise very easily, are starting to sell stakes in their franchises to private equity. Stephen Ross is going to do it with the Dolphins. There's others who've talked about it. So to me, the way forward, if you need an injection of capital, is with a partner that is invested in the business of football, not a private equity firm that is in the business of making money solely and in any way possible for its investors, but actually with a partner that has cash to spare, wants to look for new ways to grow, can optimize and monetize college football even more than it is in a fragmented market. And I think we'll want to see the sport be healthy in the long term, because that also serves its long-term interests and will keep its private capital partners happy in the process. So I think that's the way forward to do this. It can keep the conference system intact. You're in partnership with the NFL. You're not being taken over by the NFL. There is a role for the commissioners and the conferences, but it doesn't involve selling your soul to some financial vampire that doesn't care about the sport at all. It just cares about turning a profit for its investors. So I will hang up and let you react to that.
I appreciate it. Great call. My reaction is I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about private equity. I mean, again, I don't.
Call from
Rick.
Rick, can you hold on a second? I just got to answer the last question here.
We sure can.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
I think it's coming in, private equity. I've been told it's coming in. I don't know how it's coming in, and I think how it comes in is going to largely determine the future that we're looking at here. If it's conference level, school level, or Super League level, I guess we'll call it. No one has ever told me that the Big Ten is looking into it. No one has ever told me the SEC has looked into it. I've got really good information on the Big 12. If that's been out in public, I've got stuff private. That's why I keep talking about, like, UConn is part of those talks. That UConn is part of the presentation of a private equity firm. That's all part of the equation. I've been pretty open on that lately. I keep being told that private equity, it's the cash, but it's also their connections to be able to elevate your sponsorship deals and everything else. It's their connections that make them valuable, not so much the cash itself. I don't know enough about it. I really don't. I think it's coming in. That's my peak. I believe it's coming in because I've been told it's coming in. But I don't know how it's coming in. I don't know how it's all going to work out. I don't know. But the only thing I can do is give you guys the best peek if I get any information. But my opinion on it means less than usual because I just don't know a whole heck of about it. I appreciate it. Rick, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. The Project Rudy. I mean, let's cut to the chase on this. You just got done yelling into the mic that what Georgia really wants is what?
What's ever best for the university as a whole.
Well, right, but you specifically said
North Carolina.
the Tar Heels.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I'm yelling into the mic that what the Big Ten specifically wants is Notre Dame.
Yes.
And
North Carolina.
And
yeah.
Project Rudy is an attempt by the evil Irish to avoid being forced into a conference.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
And it avoids them of having to try to figure out a standalone contract that keeps them up with everybody. It takes away all their worries. This is the greatest deal ever for Notre Dame, and of course Jack Swarbrick joined it. And yeah. I agree, sir. Go ahead.
And the evil archangel Jack Swarbrick is behind it. That was my other point. The second point is with regard to the capital infusion, private equity.
Yeah.
If it's done, it doesn't have to be done Project Rudy style with 4 conferences with a P4. It can be done with one firm doing the P2, the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And then another company doing the P, the big, whatever, the 12 and ACC. They don't have to join forces. And Sankey already told you that.
Yeah.
Sankey told you that on the podcast.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to lower himself in his conference. And working with the Big Ten isn't lowering himself.
Yeah, I think they don't want to knife each other.
But working with anyone else is lowering himself.
Yeah. I mean, and again, so as a fan I am a crazy college football fan. crazy. I watch everything I can possibly watch, and then during the week, I'm going back and watching the other games. That's what I do. That's what I love. Ask the little general. Ask the little general. That's what I love. So, I don't want the Big Ten and the SEC to break away. I don't want that. I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about anybody else. I don't want that. I think that is going to be not as fun for me. I don't want them breaking away. I don't want them breaking away. They're going to have their advantages. Right now, maybe things will change. Maybe Yellowstone Park blows and the Midwest the whole Midwest is destroyed or whatever. Maybe it will change, but the Big Ten and the SEC is going to have their advantages. Realignment never sleeps. Things are always changing. Demographics, blah, 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 blah. But I don't want them to break away. But guess what? Guess what? I don't want the G5 to be absolutely destroyed. And why is that? Because I think it's important to the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC, because there's so many student athletes. There's so many kids out there that are under-recruited. They don't get a chance. They're late in blossoming as an individual, as a young man, young women. They go to a G5 school. They get great. They develop. They move up. They go to a West Virginia. They go to a Cincinnati. They might go to a Georgia. That is fantastic. And it keeps those athletic departments alive. So there can be a wrestling team at Central Michigan or whatever the examples are. So this Project Rudy that everybody says, oh, this becomes more fair. Well, you're cutting the legs out of the G5 schools. You're absolutely cutting them out. So if that is your attitude, then don't, are you going to get upset when the Big Ten and the SEC then tries to cut everybody else out? Because it's the same thing. I didn't think I'd go on another rant, but go ahead, Rick. Appreciate it.
I'll leave you with this. Hurricane Greg is a Category 6.
Yes.
And you better pack your bags.
Yes. I'm not
Talk to you later, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh. Woo! The phone lines are open. 763.
Call from
Immaculate.
Mr. Hawkeye is on the line. The floor is yours. I did not include the Iowa game. And the reason why I did not include the Iowa game, because it was 2.5 points. And like the West Virginia game, Iowa State game, I have no clue whatsoever. Like, I can't even pretend to know what's going to happen between the Washington Huskies and the Hawkeyes. None. Zero. Zip. And so that's why I did not put it as one of the 10 games. Go ahead, sir.
If I'm being fair, I wouldn't want to bet on that game either at this point in time. I got very little faith in what Ferentz is going to do on offense. Again, it's a broken record player. But, so I don't blame you on that. Real quickly, just on that ACC deal, folks, there's only one gore. We've seen it. There's an addendum they added in 2016. So there's supposedly 2 deals. I guess maybe that makes sense on the media rights agreement. You're not adding to a former agreement. You're making another agreement. Yeah. So I guess that makes sense. I don't know. For me, the whole opting out thing has never been about cutting ties. It's been about an effort to maybe get a better deal for ESPN. And now ACC is out here saying they're trying to get a better deal. So I don't know what the reality is. We'll see. Yeah. We'll find. But I'm with you. I don't think it means that they're ever separating. It's just, it comes down to like, okay, which direction does the deal get better? Is it better for ESPN, better for ACC, and by how much? If it's over a certain threshold, do they have to sign up new gore? These type of things. So there's a lot of folks who are using this as like the saving grace, and maybe it is. We'll find out. In terms of this Rudy League, though, didn't really get a chance to talk to you about it, so I'm glad we're kind of talking about it again. If they're really trying to go around the commissioners to talk to the presidents, I think they're going to find out that's a big mistake. These presidents run huge universities, and they have athletic directors and they have commissioners that they want to work on this stuff and deal with this stuff. Vet it out, figure it out. They don't want to deal with it. So you're going to go around the people that they have empowered to deal with this, to go to them directly. They're going to look at you as a shyster. They're going to look at you as someone who is trying to manipulate them, because this is actually what they're ignorant about. They don't know. They look to people that they trust to deal with this. And so if you're going to go around those people directly to them, you're hurting your chances. In my opinion, could be wrong. These guys are going to come to them and say, your conference commissioner isn't dealing in your best interest. And right then and there, those presidents are going to tune them out. Like, yeah, I'm done with you. I'm their boss. It's not the other way around, you know. So if that's really the case and that's what they're doing, I have even less belief that actually comes to play. In terms of what it is, there's a lot of people who are going in differently, and it does evolve around Notre Dame, as your previous caller stated. That was a very good call on that. But some people seem to think that Notre Dame is there to help out the Big 12 and the ACC and this and all that, and it's kind of like, no, they're not. If anything, look at how this league is made up. That tier one, with that, none of these numbers are set in stone. This is all sales proposal type stuff. It could vary a whole lot from that. But what you have to do is you have to look and see who it's focused to. Unlike the other one, which was focused to the disaffected, this is focused to the power.
Yeah.
Power play.
Correct.
So that's the aspect of it that's not going to change. So if, say, they can't match those numbers, they're going to have to cut from some of these payouts. Guess who's going to get cut? Tier 2 and Tier 3. Not Tier 1, because that's who they want to say yes. That's who they want to drag everyone else in, because as you even heard from callers, they think, a top-level super league between the two conferences is going to form. And I think that comes from people's understanding of the NFL. The NFL is two conferences. It goes to the Super Bowl. Like, they think that they're just going to follow that mode, and that's fine. But that's what Notre Dame is doing. They're trying to ensure that they always get the same amount of money as the schools, these top programs that are in the Big Ten and the SEC. That's what this is. So, no, they are not doing any favors for anyone else. So if people are thinking that Notre Dame is fighting against them, they're not. They're trying to get some of these SEC and Big Ten schools to look at this and say, hey, this is a possibility. But on the back end of that, if they do end up having to go into a conference full-time, wherever they go, whatever they do, something like this is something that they can show to their fans, their supporters, and say, we did everything we could. Look, Swarbook was even involved with this. They called it the Rudy League. We tried everything we could do, and this is where we're at. So I think folks need to be real careful about this one, because and it has realignment in it, or not realignment, but relegation. And I know some people are like saying that gives us a shot to get up there. No, I hate to be, bearer of bad news, but that's going, like, people think of like realignment right now as being bloodthirsty, and that these guys are just, greedy and going for everything. They haven't seen anything yet, Greg.
Yeah.
If there's a league that's involved with relegation, you've seen nothing in terms of bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
They will come for everything you have. They will, this payout advantage, remember, this would not be in the NCAA. So rules stopping them for how much they could pay, rules for, how many players they could have, means nothing. I had talked real quick on X with Bob Thompson. He compared this to the Premier League in England. Well, what you got to do is you got to compare it to the entire football structure in England, which isn't just the Premier League, it's the Championship League, and then there's like 2 or 3 down below that. What they do is they take all the best players into the Premier League, and some of those that don't play, they loan them out to the teams in the lower leagues.
Yeah.
And they're looking and seeing who's winning, who's the threat, who might come up and be a problem. Well, they'll loan some players to the other teams to kind of, give them help and to give them a little play. So they're going to take all your best players onto their team, and with no NCAA rules, because this is outside the NCAA, then they'll let you have. I mean, I'm sitting there watching this, going, I don't know how people aren't freaking out about this. Saying this is the one that should scare you. The other one, not that bad. Like, if as an Iowa guy, Big Ten guy, I wouldn't mind it. I don't think it's going to happen. But I see this one, and I say, and see like Big 12 and ACC fans saying, "Oh, this gives us a shot." I was like, you guys, I don't know if there's some trauma from what's happened in the past, but they should worry about stuff like this. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, people are worried about this gap in money, right? Because people want to be able to compete, right, for championships. We want to be able to at least have a chance. Well, this Project Rudy doesn't do any of that.
It's a terrible part.
It just makes it worse. Basically, you're paying off the top 16 programs to make sure that this happens, and it's a payoff for Notre Dame. It's just it just creates other stuff. And again, I always get back to this. I mean, it's sort of the opposite of it's sort of the opposite of how everybody's been acting. Like, it's almost like for this to happen, everybody would have to take some sort of crazy pills. I mean, the SEC doesn't want to give up any of its control at all. They don't. Yeah. Not a smidgen of it. So,
nope.
I don't know. If it happens, I'll take the big L. No question about it. And we'll have a fun time talking about it. And we'll have a fun time talking about how the Super League's going to be structured and the possible lawsuits and da-da-da-da-da. But I can't see it.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to happen because someone made a great proposal and they're like, oh, that's awesome, let's go do it. They're going to do it because everything falls apart.
Yeah.
It's about control matters more to these people than sports money.
Yeah.
For a lot of these universities, we're talking about millions, and they deal in billions. What they're not going to risk that. Like, a lot of these people are kind of sensitive folks. Like, you can ruin some relationships that are worth billions to you in squabbling over millions for your athletic stuff. So yeah, I don't think like in the Big Ten or the SEC they're going to do anything to each other to actually damage each other. But we're starting to see some movement in the whole House settlement situation, and I do absolutely think the NCAA, along with some of these conferences, their play in the end is to get movement from Congress after the elections. And if they can't get that, then we might be in the realm of this becoming possibility. And I'm not against that being possible. I just think at this time, these private equity groups, they're just trying to jockey for position. And quite frankly, they're putting their stuff out here to show like, hey, look, we got good ideas. Mm-hmm. For now, some of these ideas are going to get taken and used. And they're okay with that because eventually if this all breaks down, they'll be the ones then that come to you like, okay, you had good ideas. We used some of them. Things didn't work out. Now we need to do this. Let's look at your plan. But, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to put themselves into that type of a situation. And I think it's very clear that that's a Notre Dame-driven idea because it keeps them on par. And fans, I'll end with this real quick. Fans for a school like Florida State, easily you could argue as a top 12, top 16 type program.
Yeah.
Anyone argue against that, it'd kind of be silly and foolish. But that doesn't mean you get into one. It doesn't mean you get there because, as you have said over and over and again, if this happens, it's going to be about relationships. Who is going to get that spot? It's not just going to be the top ones, because the people who run that league are first going to have to get agreements from everyone to be part of this. And before they give up control, they're going to use their own control to determine who is in those tiers.
Yeah.
And, as much as we both got friends and whatever now in the Florida State lineups, they're a bit of a pariah.
Yeah.
I would say the odds of them getting into that tier one, if this was to happen, are probably lower than they want to admit.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. We don't know.
There's so many problems with it that it's staggering. And again, I got really good friends, Florida State. Thinking that they're going to get to the Big Ten and the SEC, and they might, right? But then suddenly now they think this is the greatest thing because, but if they got an invitation to the Big Ten tomorrow, they would flip their mind. It's just, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. Thank you for the call, man. Appreciate it. Keep your eye open on any of these reports come out of Nashville, Immaculate.
Yeah, I'm kind of watching it right now. We'll see. Hopefully we get something. Talk to you later, bud.
Yeah, appreciate it. Great call. Anthony Carlson, thank you, Mr. Spartan, for your incredible generosity. Holy smokes. 10 gifted memberships. I have fallen behind. I apologize.
From
BJ.
BJ, can you hold on for a moment? I am so far behind on people being very generous, and I haven't thanked them. Anthony Carlson, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Sam, Laura Welburn, BYU Patrick Bear, Kurt Searcy, Michael Monk, David Osborne, Random Tees, Marcus Williams, Steve Moser, and Amazing Blue. I think I got them all. Please, when you get the time, say thank you to Mr. Anthony Carlson for his incredible generosity. Thank you, Anthony. All of you are hereby knighted officially. Cloak and Dagger. Go to our YouTube channel and check out the episodes, member episodes, early P Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, Anthony Carlson. You are very, very generous, helping us keep the lights on here. You are a very generous man. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Antoine Coates, the Big Ten and the SEC already cut everyone out. Early Peak Cloak and Dagger for the third month. Thank you, Antoine Coates. Thank you for being a member for 3 months. Your generosity helping us keep the lights on here. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you to Antoine Coates and Anthony Carlson. BJ, thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
What's up, Greg? And as always, thanks for allowing me to speak on your platform. And you spoke a lot today, so I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can, not only highlighting the more important things.
Got it.
The most important thing, I think, you have simple logic, you have complex logic, right? And I think as college fans, we've been used to having to deal with simple logic. The decisions are made based off one big mover. But I think as we kind of progress, I think we're entering this world of college football where it's complex logic. There's 2 and 3 movers that determine the decisions that the decision makers make. Very similar to a professional world of doing things, right?
Yeah.
And with that being said, I think the most important thing as we move forward into this new world of football is relationships that were on the outskirts are going to be cut, right? I think that one of your callers before mentioned that Michigan and these schools want to be rubbing shoulders with a certain level of people. I think maybe you even said that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I agree with that. And like I tell some of the ACC folks and school folks and some of the Big 12 folks, all because somebody doesn't want to rub shoulders with you, that doesn't mean you're worthless.
Yep, exactly.
it's going to be constricted.
Yeah.
And you know, and every time I say that, I'm called a troll, but I'm just looking at it from a business perspective. It's kind of like, you know, before I retired, you know, I hired people and I had to fire people. And firing people is never really a good thing, but you have to do it on certain occasions. And ultimately, I think with this new deal that runs into 2031 for the CFP, the Power 2 essentially fired or demoted the ACC and the Big 12. And the reason that is, I like to categorize it that way, they're taking a lesser portion of the pie. Even though the money is increasing, the power, like one of your members mentioned before, the power is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the money. Because as long as I have enough money to be next to my peers, I'm okay. But if my power diminishes with my peers, then we may have a problem. So that's one. And secondly, any new formation of college or iteration of college football, if I don't see a network being attached to it, I pay it little to no mind. It's like fictional writing or fictional reading to me, because ultimately the media providers determine the value, right? And in my eyes, the presidents are good. They're responsible for making these decisions. They're just going to look at the commissioner's spreadsheet, what the commissioner gets from the media companies, of the value, right? And so if I don't see a media conglomerate attached to it, I don't pay it any mind. It's going to be billions upon billions of dollars to break the current contracts. And I think that's why, I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago, there was a conversation between Florida State and the ACC about shortening the grant of rights to 2030. And that was believable in the sense that it aligns them with all the other conferences. And if there is going to be a power play and a real restructure of the sport, it's going to be when all the variables are in alignment. It's cheaper. But I'll end it with that, Greg, and I'm curious to hear your comments and about what I just communicated.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Great call, BJ.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, I think BJ said it better than I did when it comes to money is one thing, control, power is another.
Call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues, can you just hold on for one moment, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Are we having a press briefing right now between Sankey and Petiti? Is that true? Yes. Movie Time Blues. I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to go to this briefing here. Can you call back after we go through the breaking news?
Sure. Okay.
I apologize, sir.
So no. Okay, I understand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We are going to take the phone off the hook. My apologize to longtime caller, PATC community member, Movie Time Blues. I do not like to do that. I appreciate when Movie Time Blue calls or anybody else calls. It is very, it's not cool of me to ask somebody to step away from the phone. I appreciate it, Movie Time Blues. I appreciate it. Let's I don't think I can put the okay, here we go. I don't think I can have the audio on, or I don't know where if there's a link anywhere. Greg Sankey and Tony Petiti addressed the media after joint AD meetings. Okay? We've got that. Keep your head on a swivel. Let me know if I am missing any reports. Heather Dinich. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti and Commissioner Greg Sankey talking to reporters now. Sankey called this meeting between the two leagues unprecedented. Oh boy. Well, that must mean something got done. Right? We said at the beginning of the show, we were told there was going to be at least some okay. Nick Auerbach. Greg Sankey said that the Big Ten and the SEC athletic directors discussed the fallout from the House settlement today. Revenue sharing, roster limits. What our teams are going to look like next year is on us right now, Sankey says. Okay, we're just trying to capture everything. We're trying to capture everything here, all the reporting. Okay. Time out. Again, this is what we reported before the show began. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey says, we did talk about postseason football. We talked a lot about what's happening this year. Our focus on future format comes after the first cycle of the expanded college football playoff. This isn't the time to talk about the format. This is what we reported at the beginning of our show. We did not believe that there was going to be any news coming out about the college football playoffs. If there is some unofficial agreement or something, they were going to have to consult back with the Big 12, back with the ACC. We did not expect any of playoff format, to really be no announcements today. And that's exactly what it sounds like. Greg Sankey said most of the morning was spent talking about the House settlement, trying to help athletic directors navigate through this time. Again, Ross Dellinger. Sankey said the athletic directors did not make a decision on college football playoff future format. Our focus on future format comes after we go through this first cycle. Not a lot of conversations about what ifs. And that's what we expected here at Peek Around the Corner. That's what we reported to you all. That's not what this was going to be. Okay. We had, Nicole Auerbach. Greg Sankey on the first season of the 12-team college football playoff. This has to go incredibly well. This has to be a successful launch. This isn't the time to talk about governance or the format for 26. In regards to scheduling, on any joint scheduling partnership, Greg Sankey says, we had real general conversations about what ifs in football and basketball, and talked briefly about other sports. So they had real general conversations about what ifs in football and basketball, and talked briefly about other sports. Again, there's not going to be any agreement, there's not going to be any official, we're going to do this, until the SEC figures out that 9-conference game in football, as we discussed at the beginning of our live show. The SEC, the Big Ten, circle jerk, reeks of conspiracy and racketeering. Yeah, that preliminary approval set things in motion. The USC needs to cancel the game with Notre Dame. The timing is not coincidence. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Again, has there been any conversations okay, and this is accurate. Greg Sankey asked, Nicole Arbach, Greg Sankey asked if the Big Ten and the SEC can unilaterally change the college football playoff format. No, but we do have a defined role where we have to be clear participants at the end of the conversations. In other words, no, they don't have unilaterally powers. There are things they cannot change. There are protections. The SEC and the Big Ten are not going to take the 5 top-rated conference champions, automatic berths. That's not going away. The G5 protection is not going away. Notre Dame's protection is not going away. So there cannot, now the Big Ten and the SEC do have some powers to change the format, but they don't have complete power. They don't. They do not. As we have reported here for months, for a year here at Peek Around the Corner. Yeah, you know, they really can't go in the deep weeds about scheduling agreements until the SEC is going to have to, that ninth conference game for football, they're going to have to get that done before it really goes into the deep weeds on that. The Big Ten and the SEC do have some powers to change the format with those two agreeing. But there are things they cannot change. We've been through those. It looks like, so again, it looks like that's basically it. Unprecedented meeting, but there doesn't seem to be any official agreement that they're going to announce. No bowl agreement, right? No bowl agreement, nothing that they can officially announce. John Talty of National College Sports Reporter, CBS Sports. Greg Sankey said that they could not discuss specific revenue share numbers related to the House settlement during the Big Ten and the SEC joint meeting today. So they could not discuss possibly antitrust situation. They could not discuss the revenue share numbers in this advisory group meeting between the Big Ten and the SEC athletic directors. Cam Rising Utah quarterback Cam Rising will start Friday at Arizona State. He will start it. Holy smokes. PATC community took Utah. I took Arizona State. Again, Greg the Cooler, he doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Rock and Rand, I believe the most interesting things discussed at these meetings, both jointly and within their individual conferences, are things they're not about to talk about right now. Expedition Greg, I hope you made it through that hurricane. I was watching the city that you live in, and it looks like you guys got hit with some of those hardest rains, but you're in the chat room, so you must be okay. Thank goodness. Nicole Arbach, Oklahoma Athletic Director. It was an opportunity to learn from each other and have important conversations. It was good to get into a room and compare notes with other athletic directors who face common challenges. There is more work ahead for all of us to implement the House settlement. Today's meeting helped us focus on what needs to be done in the continued reform of college sports and the continued effort to further increase benefits for student athletes. There remains a need for help from Congress to resolve the patchwork of state laws that have made college sports ungovernable, and for clarity on other issues that only can be resolved through federal legislation. Nicole Arbach. And here is Tony Petitti. Breaking news. Tony Petitti. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti asked about the various Super League proposals floating around. I have yet to see a single thing in any plan that contains things that we couldn't do ourselves and do with our A4 colleagues. Well, he said a lot there, right? I have yet to see a single thing in any plan that contains things that we couldn't do ourselves. The Big Ten, but it says and here, and do with our A4 colleagues. I don't know. These conferences are not going to want to give up power. That was the money shot, wasn't it? That was the money shot so far coming out. And yes, Immaculate says, and they still need help from Congress, which they're probably not going to get. Let's check if there's any other reporting here. Tony Petitti. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti. Notions that college football is somehow broken, it's just not right. Again, whatever you think of Project Rudy, pro, con, somewhere in the middle, don't really know, need more information. Project Rudy is a massive reform, right? Massive. And Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, they're not close to thinking massive reform like that. However you want to think about it. I think things are broken in college football. I believe, personally, we need a collective bargaining agreement. We need guardrails. We need enforcement. We need protections for the student athletes, protection for the sport, for the competition. Petitti, they're not close to the Project Rudy world. They're not. And that's why when you got people like the Monty Show talking about how the Super League is here, like it's happening, I don't know where are people getting all this stuff. Heather Dennett, strong pushback from both commissioners on the private equity option. As I said at the beginning of the show, the SEC and the Big Ten, but the SEC has no belief in this stuff. Heather Dinich. Wow, thank you, Immaculate. Thank you, Immaculate, for giving me the heads up on this. Thank you, sir. I did not see it. Thank you very much. Ross Dellinger, more sharp comments from Greg Sankey on outsider proposals for a future college sports model. I don't think it's coincidence that they ramped up their public relations scheme around our meeting. He's calling it a scheme. That is shots fired. Outside proposals for a future college sports model. There it is. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't get any more. Again, Super League model. Man, it's wow. Thank you, Immaculate, for showing me that. We are going to continue to cover the Project Rudy. You know, if it gets more traction, you know, whatever, we're going to cover the reporting on it. But it's just again, relationships matter. The SEC wow. Let's see if there's any more reporting. Heather Dinich reporting the same thing. Sankey says it's no coincidence that both these private equity efforts ramped up their public relations schemes around our meeting. So I think, again, it's hard to imagine. Notre Dame needs to realize, and they're not. The SEC may not be their protector for much longer. This Project Rudy is what Notre Dame wanted. The SEC, okay, this is we're going to call this my speculation, okay, speculation. If the SEC, years down the road, when it becomes an opportunity to do so legally, to have first party talks, if the SEC gets North Carolina and the connective tissues around North Carolina, and the Big Ten goes get Notre Dame and the connective tissues around Notre Dame, if the SEC, if they knew that there was, if that's the result of the next wave, the SEC is going to be as happy as they can possibly be. If Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten, they don't care anymore. They used to care, but they don't care anymore. The SEC is so big and monstrous and so powerful and so lucrative. They've got their eyes set on something else. They're not protecting Notre Dame anymore. Notre Dame wanted this. They're not going to get it. Most likely they're not going to get it. My take, yes. Look at Dinich. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what's going on? I've already said that one. This one here, Immaculate. Pettini said, I've yet to see a single thing in any plan that I've learned details about that contains things that we couldn't do ourselves and do with other colleagues. Our Power 4 colleagues as well. Is that the one you're looking at? Okay. Yeah, someone else said the same thing. It might have been Albach. Yeah. Yeah, it's like we'll do it if this is what we want to do, we'll do it ourselves. We don't, or we'll do it with other Power 4 conferences. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for 2.5 hours. I appreciate everybody coming in. Again, if there's more breaking news later this evening, we'll come on live. So you got to make sure you subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. Appreciate it. Have those notifications turned on. I appreciate all of you joining us. I told everybody that this was a live show that I was going to get everybody upset, and I think I did. But we got to shoot it to you straight. I am not here, this college football YouTube channel. We do not raise our pom-poms unless we're watching the Gophers. We give it to you straight. We give it to you as accurate as possible. And if we miss any details, we take the L. But when it comes to Project Rudy, don't think it's happening. When it comes to some big mega moment on February 1st, 2025, in regards to the ACC and ESPN, we don't think it's happening. When it comes to Greg the Gold making his first appearance this year, we don't think it's happening. We give it to you straight. We are trying to be as accurate as possible. I appreciate you all coming on in. And, well, maybe we'll see you later tonight. But we're going to be on the air Friday, and we're going to be on the air pretty much all Saturday. I will give more details to you about Saturday tomorrow on Friday or later tonight if we have to come on live. Appreciate you all. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.